Before I start this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Meganitz, and you'll see his name right down at the bottom of the screen. So really, just subscribe to him. He's a really nice guy. He did a shout out for me about 2 days ago, so I figured I should do the same for him. What's up, guys? My name is New Cloud, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 best Mario Kart DS tracks. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. By the way, retro tracks are not included because they were not from Mario Kart DS. But, anyways, let's get straight into it. Number 10. So, Desert Hills. It's not the best track, but it is certainly good by what we have. So pretty much Desert Hills is just a desert track, of course, and it has a lot of wide turns. And you may think this is easy, but the road is extremely slippery, so you have to be very careful. And especially at the end, there are these incredibly high hills, I guess? Desert hills? But you have to be really careful on them, because if you don't, you'll get stuck in this land and you'll slow down a whole lot. But otherwise, this track is just pretty fun. Number 9. I can't believe I'm saying this, but a track from the Mushroom Cup actually made it on this list. Luigi's Mansion is actually a fairly well track, and I'm not even sure why it's in the Mushroom Cup. They should have switched out Desert Hills with this track, because this would have felt a lot better in the Flower Cup. So, enough rambling with that. Luigi's Mansion drives you through, well, I guess Luigi's Mansion. You'll have very paranormal things like moving trees once you get to the end of the course, and at the beginning, chandeliers that'll just drop down randomly. In the newer version of Mario Kart 7, the paintings with the boos start to come alive, but I guess due to the DS's limitations, they couldn't really do that. But otherwise, this track is just amazing. Number 8. DK Pass. This is also one of the really fun courses. It has you driving pretty much on a road, but then towards the end you start to drive on a mountain. It's a really fun course, and there's a special item box in Versus mode where it's near that huge snowball, and it only contains triple mushrooms and stars. That is just amazing. There's nothing else I can really say about that. So once you get on the mountain, you'll see some other snowballs, and sometimes they can be fairly hard to avoid because of the very bumpy terrain. At the end, there's this huge ramp, and at the final turn, there are some snowmen, which you also have to be careful around. My only real complaint about this track is the music. I think it could be more zany, but I guess I'm fine with how it is right now. Number 7. So Delfino Square. It can be a really fun race sometimes. Other times it can be your worst nightmare. The reason I say that is because some of the shortcuts are ridiculous, including one with Never Signify, which you have to jump off the pier. But it's pretty fun if you know how to do it. So Delfino Square has you driving through Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine. This is a very creative course. It just feels really nice because it feels like you're driving in just a town until you get to the end, because there's a huge bridge that you can either go up or down depending on what its height is right then and there. Otherwise, this track is really kind of hard actually, because some of the turns are incredibly sharp, and if you don't have a good enough handling vehicle, you can just pretty much just fall or run into the wall. That happened to me a lot in Mario Kart Wii, but not in this game much. This track overall is just a blast to play on. Number 6. Wario Stadium. This just feels like Waluigi Stadium from the GameCube, because it's just pretty much a dirt bike track, except for it's on a way bigger scale for many reasons. The jumps, the boosts, and the crowd. There are way more people here than there was in Waluigi Stadium. This is just insane. Look at how many people there are. Now, this track does have the same music as Waluigi Pinball, and it's a really fun track, so... I mean, it's super cool. There are a bunch of bumps. And this remake in Mario Kart 8 is very different to what it is right now. But otherwise, this track is also very fun and very exhilarating.
Number 5.
Is it me, or is this track just really underrated? Mario Circuit for the DS is very underrated. It has not appeared in any of the other games yet. And quite honestly, this is one of my favorite tracks ever in Mario Kart history because it has a little bit of everything, including the piranha plants, just the road, the Peach's castle, and it even has a dirt section, which is very odd in Mario Circuit. I bet you this is why Mario Circuit from Mario Kart 7 has this dirt section, because it was probably inspired from this or even the GameCube. But mostly this, because this track is just amazing. Because there are walking Goombas, although they are very easy to avoid, if you run into them, they can be a pain to deal with. Then you have the piranha plants that just shoot fire, and they can actually be really easy to dodge at some points, but also very hard. Now, some of the turns are very sharp, and I mean extremely sharp, and they're really obnoxious sometimes, but if you have a good enough handling car, you can get through it really well.
Number 4.
Alright, I know that this idea came from Super Mario 64, but clocks. Seriously, Nintendo? What actually made you think about this? Alright, enough with that. Tick-Tock Clock is a very fun course. Although it doesn't have much graphical overhaul, the track itself is really fun, and the music is just amazing too. It makes it feel more clocky, I guess you could say. That's right, clocky. That is a new word. But otherwise, this track is just a lot of fun. And I mean ridiculously fun, because you can get pushed off the edge even though the road is really wide. You can run into all the little pendulums, and I don't know what these are called. You could call these analog sticks. You can run into them a lot if they're coming at you, so you gotta be careful. But this track is really, really fun.
Number 3.
Why doesn't anybody actually look at this track? This is probably the best highway course in the entire Mario Kart franchise. Better than Mushroom City, better than Mushroom Ridge. This is the best one. It has you driving on a mountainside, basically. You drive through tunnels, and you can go through really sharp turns. Now, the section where you're looking over the mountainside can actually be a bit difficult at times if you're not paying attention. But otherwise, this track is amazing. If there were no cars, you could fly through this track with no problem, because of how wide the road is. You could just snake all the way through and have no real problem. Now, the real question I have about this track is, why is it so underrated? This is probably the most underrated track in the entire game, besides Mario Circuit. Nobody ever looks at it. It hasn't been in a game yet, and most people forget about this track, except for me. I love this track to death, that I exactly remember that I need to play this track every time I play this game. It wouldn't feel right if I did. So yeah, this is a really cool track. Now, the next two I didn't really have a very hard time picking, but it was kind of a close one. So I guess you all want to see what those two really are. So let's get to it.
Number 2.
Alright people, don't get mad at me for putting Waluigi Pinball 7. But honestly, I think there's a better track than this. But for now, let's just talk about this track. So this track is the most creative track I've ever seen in my life. You are driving inside of a pinball machine. Where did that come from? There is no real inspiration for this, but this is just really random, but it's awesome at the same time. Now, this track has the same music as Mario Stadium, as I said earlier in the video, but my god, it feels like this track's music goes way better than it does with Mario Stadium. Now, the reason I say this is because everything is flashing, everything is moving, and as soon as you enter towards the end, it starts making makes pinball noises. And when you go through that cannon, it's so colorful, it makes me want to just like scream. Now, this is a very cool track, but I wonder if you all know what number 1 is. So, let's get to that.
And now, number 1.
That's right, baby. Airship Fortress, the number 1 track in Mario Kart DS. The reason being, this is probably the best interpretation of Super Mario Bros. 3 ever. There will probably be nothing like this track ever. So let's get on with this track. You see everything from Mario. You see the rocky wrenches, you see the flames of death, you got this cannon that shoots you like a bullet bill, and you got bullet bills themselves at the beginning of the track. Now, once you get out of this cannon at the end, you have this huge spiral tower, and it can get confusing if you don't know how many times you go around. That's why the bottom screen is always so helpful. Now, this track is just awesome. The music is awesome. Everything about it is awesome. But to be honest, I actually like this version better than the remake in Mario Kart 7. The reason being, it looks a lot better in this game than it does in Mario Kart 7. But anyways, that's my top 10 list. What do you think about it? Like or dislike this video, depending on what you thought about it. And subscribe to me if you liked it. So I guess I will see all of you guys next time.